They call you lonely. But what if your silence isn't weakness? What if it's evolution? Because sometimes having no friends doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've outgrown the world. People who walk alone see more than they should. Silence sharpens their senses. When you're not distracted by constant chatter or validation, the world begins to unfold in detail. Every movement, every tone, every flicker in someone's eyes, nothing escapes you. It's not that you're trying to observe, you just can't turn it off anymore. Your mind studies people like puzzles, dissecting the truth behind their smiles, the hesitation in their words, the lies they hide beneath polite laughter. Isolation does something to perception. It stretches it, refines it, makes it almost dangerous. When you live without the noise of others, you begin to hear the world breathe. You notice the things people ignore, the patterns in behavior, the inconsistencies in stories, the energy that shifts when someone walks into a room. What feels like loneliness to others becomes your laboratory of observation. You start predicting things. Who will betray you? Who is pretending? Who is afraid? You become hyper-aware, and that awareness is both a gift and a curse. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You realize how most people wear masks so tight they've forgotten their real faces. You see manipulation disguised as kindness. You sense insecurity hiding behind confidence. You detect hunger for control in every so-called friendship. It's unsettling to know this much, but solitude gave you that power. Most people drown in social noise. They fill silence with meaningless words. They never notice the tremor in a voice that hides pain. But you do, you always do, because you've learned to listen not just to words, but to pauses. You've learned to read silence itself, and silence tells stories that people never will. You start to feel detached, as if you're standing behind glass, watching everyone else perform. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You see the machinery of human behavior, and it changes how you move through life. You speak less, you watch more. You understand that attention is currency, and most people spend it carelessly. You don't. This depth of observation becomes your quiet weapon. People underestimate you because you say little. They don't realize you've already read them. You know who they are before they know who you are. You've mapped their fears, their motives, their cracks. You see through charm, through pretense, through noise. You see the truth, and the truth isolates you even more. Because when you see too much, you connect less. You can't pretend anymore. The small talk feels hollow. The laughter feels rehearsed. You can't unlearn what solitude has taught you. You can't go back to blindness. Your perception grows colder, sharper. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. You've seen the patterns. You've seen the repetition of masks, the cycle of deceit, the emptiness behind connection. It's dark knowledge, but it's real. And realness, in a world built on illusion, is lonely. So you stay quiet, you observe, you keep your distance. You know too much to be fooled again. Solitude gave you vision, and that vision cut through illusion like glass. You walk alone, but you walk awake. When you have no one to lean on, you learn to stand alone. The world stops catching you, so you teach yourself how to land. Pain becomes a teacher, silence becomes company. You realize no one is coming to save you, and somehow, that truth sets you free. Emotional independence is born in the moments people avoid. The nights where you break quietly and no one notices. The mornings you rebuild yourself piece by piece without applause. You learn that strength isn't loud. It's the steady heartbeat that keeps going after everything else falls apart. You stop chasing comfort. You start creating it within yourself. At first it hurts. The absence of connection feels like a wound. But over time you stop needing reassurance. You stop explaining your emotions to people who never understood them. You stop giving others the power to control your peace. You realize most people depend on attention to feel alive. But you've built an internal world that can't be shaken. Loneliness teaches you control. It teaches you to sit in your darkness without trying to escape it. You begin to find beauty in the quiet, power in the stillness. While others crumble when ignored, you grow stronger in the silence. You don't need to be seen to exist. You don't need to be understood to have worth. You become your own anchor. People often mistake that independence for coldness. They think you've stopped caring. But it's not that you've gone numb. It's that you've learned not to depend on emotional crumbs. You've stopped chasing what keeps breaking you. You don't beg to be heard anymore. You don't need validation to know your value. That detachment isn't emptiness. It's evolution. You've built walls, yes, but not to keep people out, to protect the peace you bled for. You know what happens when you open yourself too wide. You've seen how easily people drain, manipulate, and discard. So you guard your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your heart. Solitude becomes your discipline. You master your emotions the way others master small talk. You can face fear without running, sadness without distraction, and uncertainty without chaos. You don't crumble under silence. You grow in it. You can walk through rejection, through indifference, through betrayal, and remain whole. That's not detachment. That's resilience carved into your bones. The more you grow, the less you need. The less you need, the freer you become. No one can hold you hostage with affection. No one can control you with guilt. You've detached from dependency, and that terrifies people who live off attachment. They don't understand your peace because it can't be bought or broken. It's built. There's a darkness in that independence, a cold clarity. You stop expecting warmth from others. You carry your own fire now. You burn quietly, steadily. You don't chase light, you are it. And that's the paradox. You became untouchable by surviving what should have destroyed you. You learned to love your own company. You found stillness where others find fear. You don't need saving, you never did. You're not lonely, you're liberated. When you have no one to mirror you, you start to see yourself as you are. No filters, no comfort, no applause, just truth. Brutal, unsoftened truth. Solitude strips away illusion. It forces you to face what others distract themselves from. You can't hide behind validation when there's no one around to give it. You can't pretend you're fine when the only voice left is your own. At first, it's unbearable. The silence feels like exposure. You see every flaw magnified, every wound still bleeding. You try to run from yourself, but there's nowhere left to go. Eventually, the running stops, and that's when the real confrontation begins. You begin to study your own mind like a stranger's. You notice how easily you lie to yourself, how often you shrink for approval, how deep your fears actually go, without friends to distract you. The mirror becomes merciless. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't forgive, it reflects exactly who you are, and who you've been pretending to be. You realize how much of your life was built on performance, how many of your choices were shaped by fear. The solitude doesn't create these truths, it reveals them. You start seeing the patterns, the ones you've repeated again and again, the self-sabotage disguised as caution, the self-doubt masquerading as humility, the need to please that kept you small. You see it all and it hurts, but that pain is clarity. Every layer of illusion you peel away makes you sharper, colder maybe, but also more real. Most people never reach that point. They're surrounded by noise, opinions, distractions, validations. They never meet the person beneath all that noise. You did, and it changed everything. You stopped blaming others. You stopped chasing perfection. You learned that honesty is violent. It destroys what isn't true, and destruction sometimes is the only way to rebuild. You start holding yourself accountable. No excuses, no pity. You see where you've been cruel, where you've been weak, where you've been blind. You stop needing others to call you out because you've already done it to yourself. That level of self-awareness isn't comfortable, it's surgical. You cut away everything false, everything hollow, and when the illusions are gone, what remains is raw, imperfect, real. You start to accept it, not with pride, but with peace. You stop fighting your flaws. You start understanding them. You see that your darkness isn't something to erase, it's something to understand. Because inside that darkness lives every reason you became who you are. You learn to be honest about your own chaos. You stop pretending to be fine. You stop pretending to be good. You just are. And that honesty is terrifying to others because it's rare, because it's real. Most people fear their reflection. You've made peace with yours. It changes how you see others too. You recognize their masks instantly. You see their denial, their hidden pain, their self-deception. You don't judge it, you just see it. Because you've been there. You've walked through your own fire, and maybe that's what makes you different now. You've faced yourself completely. You've met the part of you that lies, breaks, manipulates, suffers, survives. You didn't run. You stayed. You watched. You learned. That's what solitude does. It turns the mirror into a weapon and the reflection into truth. You faced yourself, and you didn't look away. Freedom changes you, especially the kind that comes from being alone. When no one's there to influence your choices, you start thinking for yourself in ways that unsettle people. You stop asking for approval. You stop seeking permission. You begin to move through the world untied, unfiltered, unbothered. That kind of freedom is quiet, but it's dangerous. Because once you taste it, you never want to go back. When you have no friends, no crowd to keep you in line, you start seeing how much of the world runs on control. Opinions, expectations, appearances, they all exist to keep people predictable. But solitude breaks that system. It removes the noise. You begin to realize how much of your personality was shaped by the people around you. The jokes you made, the clothes you wore, even the dreams you chased. They weren't always yours. They were borrowed. And when the crowd disappears, all that remains is the real you. The version that doesn't care about applause. The version that acts on instinct, not influence. At first, that emptiness feels strange. You feel invisible. But slowly, invisibility turns to power. You stop existing for others. You start existing for yourself. Freedom makes you unpredictable. It makes you untamable. People can't read you anymore because you don't follow the same script. You're not performing. You're not pretending. You do what feels right, even if it makes no sense to anyone else. You walk away without warning. You stay silent when others demand noise. You detach when they expect you to care. You no longer play the game, and that's what makes you dangerous. The world doesn't know what to do with someone who isn't easily controlled. Society thrives on conformity. It rewards obedience. It punishes solitude. But when you've already survived isolation, punishment loses meaning. Rejection doesn't scare you. Being misunderstood doesn't hurt. You've made peace with being the outsider. You've built your own rules. Freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from not needing to be. You've learned that the cost of belonging is often the death of authenticity, and you'd rather be real and alone than fake and accepted. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. You've seen how easily people sell themselves for connection. You won't. You can't. You begin to notice how different solitude feels now. It's no longer a cage. It's a weapon. It protects your clarity, your peace, your sanity. You can stand in chaos and remain untouched. You can be surrounded by noise and stay centered. You don't bend anymore. You don't chase. You don't beg. This kind of detachment isn't cold. It's powerful. It's what happens when you stop needing anyone to define your worth. You can walk away from anything, love, comfort, belonging, and still remain whole. That's real freedom. It's not about rebellion. It's about control. Control of your emotions, your energy, your identity. People fear that kind of independence because it exposes their own dependence. Your calm becomes threatening. Your silence unnerves them. Your ability to live without constant validation reminds them of their own weakness. So they call you distant, cold, strange. But deep down they know, they wish they had what you have. The strength to stand alone, the courage to not care. Because freedom, real freedom, isn't loud, it's silent. It's the quiet confidence of someone who's no longer afraid to lose. It's the steady gaze of someone who can't be owned. You've cut the strings, and now nothing can pull you back. In the end, solitude isn't your curse, it's your awakening. The world will call you distant, cold, detached. Let them. They speak from cages you've already escaped. You've seen too much to go back to sleep. You've lost the crowd, but found your clarity. You've buried your weakness and built yourself from silence. You don't crave connection anymore. You crave truth. And truth is never loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just exists, like you do now, unapologetic, untamed, unbreakable. You walk alone, but you walk free.